the Elise. I really don't like. Maybe let the Kalista go through and take the Tristana into it. Just get maybe Rakan in your first rotation. Make sure that you get no Kalista Rakan against you. But giving up Elise against Untu, we saw what happened in Game 1. I do not put faith in MVP in surviving that same onslaught in Game 2. So they are not having the Lucian bans, which says to me that they're thinking about the Elise and that they'll most likely go for it.
Yeah, I would have to agree. We'll definitely be picking it up if it is available. Looks like there is a Max fan right there saying, MVP, go ahead and win. And this one says, Jinair, you definitely got to win set number 3. The plan is to go to the World Cup for League of Legends, but either way, back to the pick and ban. Maokai actually getting banned out here by the side of Jinair, and at least this time is banned. So Kalista left available, but they're going to pick up LeBlanc potentially for Kuzan.
No, no way. It's Kalista. Come on, man. You're getting hovered all the time.
I just get hover-handed all the time, man. This is not good. Don't like being baited like this, but MVP now thinking about that.
Oh, they're great. No, they're not. They're not. These champions aren't that good. So maybe Rakan early rotation. Maybe Rakan Tristana. Secure it for Max. He's been having a great game. Deny that from Snowflower. Or Thresh instead. So going with the deny Thresh. Okay, so not feeling the Rakan 2 games in a row was more than enough. And if they go with Gragas, that means that they will have a strong engage, which is what they needed last time around. It worked for them. It's good into Kalista, as you can always use your flash to CC her and punt her into your team, and she will be unable to get out. So MVP once again decided to put their fate into their own hands. But if Unti is to go with Sejuani here, it's just a more of a shake it off. Game 2, nothing to worry about. We got this.
Yeah, and with the Kalista, having the Braum to go ahead with that, throwing in your Braum, having him be in the front line for perfect glacial fissures, and also having the follow-up from the Sejuani. It's the 1-2 punch from those 2 champions.
As well as the dodge, because you can also avoid much of Gragas engage with your Unbreakable, which is going to make Kalista a little bit safer. And there it is, the Kog'Maw that we asked, the Kog'Maw that was delivered is not going to be up against Sejuani and Braum. But fear not, the Unbreakable is the same duration as the Bioarcane Barrage, which will be pretty much used against Kog'Maw as often as possible, which can mitigate a big chunk of Maha's DPS. And without any Tristanas here, these carries are going to be much more susceptible to death than in the previous Game 1 and Game 2.
They don't want to see Kuzan's LeBlanc this time around. I don't blame them. Is always a terror in any game, and they do get an opportunity to ban it out here, as Jinair did forego picking that in the first stage. This time they don't want to allow the Orianna to go in conjunction with the Gragas and also the Protect for the Kog'Maw. So a nice piece of the puzzle being banned out here by Jinair.
So I actually don't think that the LeBlanc was such an important ban, because LeBlanc with a weak early game jungler such as Sejuani isn't going to have a whole lot of kill pressure by herself. You're not in as much danger as if you were facing an Elise LeBlanc or a Kha'Zix LeBlanc, Rek'Sai LeBlanc. Any of those early game champions in combination with the mid lane assassin will be ban worthy for sure. But when you have Gragas that can mitigate Sejuani, you can get away with a lot more matchups. So instead, we're going to see the Karma being tossed away as a mid lane ban as well. So making sure that Ian doesn't go with more Protect, because it is a true Protect composition that you can offer shields, heals for your team, as opposed to just having beefy frontline. Frontline does not mean that you can protect your carries. It means it's difficult to get to them, that the composition has to be more catered towards diving the backline, but it still doesn't mean that you can just peel, right? Cho doesn't actually have a whole lot to keep somebody alive. He can offer his spells, but to increase their effective health and fighting status, no chance.
I was thinking about the Galio in terms of that. You know, you got that heroic entrance to help out your Kog'Maw and a very effective front line with all of the CC that he offers, but they decide to go ahead and pick Kled. So they want to go with the very hard engage. They have another champion that could potentially carry in the top lane. ADD looked pretty decent on it in Game 1. And we just got to look at a couple of picks here on the side of Jin Air. They have their front line in the Sejuani and Braum, the Gnar at times with the Mega Gnar, and they have that double 80 carry composition once again.
I think your suggestion of the Galio would have been great for a blind, but they don't want to risk what Jin Air is going to be throwing at them. They want a more adaptive mid laner, so they make sure to see the last pick. And the Cassiopeia is going to be impactful because you can drop that Miasma on top of Corki, he's dead. Drop it on Kalista, she's dead. Gnar can't get out. Sejuani, it's going to do so much work because 5 members on Jin Air have dashing abilities that they're not going to be able to escape. So you have these 2 big threats, and actual DPS that can come from your top laner makes for a much more devastating composition out of MVP that if you lose 1 carry, you still have plenty more to actually clean up.
And a decent front line at that. I mean, the Thresh will be nicely tanky.
Oh, he's
Gragas. Yeah, he's going to be doing that as well. And, I mean, I kind of like the composition here for MVP. They have a whole ton of damage. Their engage is really nice. They can easily pick off 1 target if they can chain their CC into the Miasma, as we were talking about. Whereas Jin Air, they're going to be looking for some more wombo combo-y, you know, throwing in the Braum, having him knock up the Sejuani ultimate, the Gnar ultimate, all the follow-up there, whilst having the 280 carries in the back. So definitely should be another action-packed game, especially as it does go later on in this one.
Exactly. The early game action isn't quite going to be there. It's Gnar into be Kled early on. Not much to see there. 2 tank level 6 junglers for the most part, and a scaling 80 carry. I think Jin Air will be switching things up and looking for the bottom side, as that's where they actually have the most kill pressure with Braum and Kalista, whereas MVP is going to be perfectly happy to scale. Make sure that Maha gets to that crazy late game status. And if we see a Kog'Maw going for, say, an Infinity Edge build, people will die.
Very true. So guys, we're going into game number 3 to decide our victor for the series. Well, the fans definitely came down to the studio. One of them actually shouting out that one of the Korean casters was very handsome.
He just said that? Or she just said that?
I think that's what he was shouting.
You're very handsome?
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty, you know, wholesome comments for sure. Maybe in the future one of our fans will come down and say,
yeah,
Crumbs, you're so handsome. Would you like that, Crumbs?
It's okay.
Your hesitation is interesting.
I don't really need it. I don't need to be told that.
I see. Okay. I like it. You know, some confidence. It's good to see.
Well, it's like, you know, if you take their compliments, you have to take their insults as well.
I guess so.
You absolutely have to. Well, you can't just pick like that.
I mean, I don't think anyone would come down to the studio and say, "F you, Crumbs, get off the desk." Like, I think the time that happens.
No, but what if somebody says you're handsome and then says, what's the opposite of unhandsome? You're hideous. Not that it would affect my confidence by any stretch.
What kind of situation are you? What kind of situation are you making up right now?
I'm just saying I don't need somebody to tell me I'm confident. My mom praises me enough already.
That's good to hear. Yeah, that's better than the opposite, I suppose. But hopefully someone would come down and praise you, Crumbs. Would like to see that. We don't have the time to keep up the Twitch chat all the time. I'm sure they're praising you all the time.
You know what praise I do get all the time that I actually get flattered by? Because the thing is, if somebody compliments on your hands, you didn't have any part in that. You didn't choose how you looked. So there's not. That's your genetic lottery. Maybe the way you did your hair and stuff like that, but that's still pretty shallow. The compliment that I really like that I've been receiving here in Korea is people telling me, especially the Koreans that don't speak a whole lot of English, they say, "You've got great chopstick skills." And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I put a lot of work in my chopstick skills. Thank you.
It's a very common one.
Yeah, and I'm like, yes, thank you. That feels nice.
How about the, wow, you're so tall? Have you been getting that a lot here in Korea? Because I know they're all about that here, too.
I get that literally all the time, though.
Oh, so not just in Korea.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a fight going down here, actually. No more mana, though, for Ian. And Kuzan actually blowing the exhaust there. Not 100% sure if he had to, but he does trade exhaust for cleanse.
Just doesn't want to risk a twin fan coming up and surprising him on the HP. It looked very close of a trade of somebody dying, but the no mana, the no more spells left to be delivered. Doesn't get us off our seats.
Kuzan, he's still hanging around beyond just threatening that body slam flash, but not coming through. Will miss a couple of the minions, but not too big of a deal. He'll just go back home. Doesn't pick up the teleport this time around. Had to bring in exhaust instead for Kuzan for that 1v1 against Ian on the Cassiopeia.
Here we go, the action bottom lane. Does he get spotted out?
I don't think so, but Teddy and Snowflower are still playing extremely passive.
It's right, because look at the minion wave. Even though it's really low, it's pushing back. So them dying here would be huge for their gold if they actually end up losing out on that wave. It's a great timing window for MVP to go for it. So they'd rather play it safe, just say we're not going to lose out on this minions. Let's just wait for Umti to invade, see if he can find Beyond. And now that he comes from the bottom side, he gets the confirmation that, yes, there's a chance that the Gragas was down here. Our intuition was correct.
Nice dodge there with the dash by ADD, but he almost hopped off Skarl. Did have Beyond nearby to help out. Just a small trade up top, and he will be able to secure that minion wave. Not going to be too low to capture that one. So very even trades going on up in the top lane so far.
And that's what we were expecting out of this game. Just pretty snooze farm fest from the early stages until they both get their items, get their level 6s. We got TPs happening, but we have been blessed with dragons that are worth fighting for early on, and if we follow the suit of the game, we will see MVP making a beeline for that one way before Jinair, and maybe Jinair even gives it up, and only around the second or third dragon will they really start caring about it.
Yeah, they do have a lot of opportunities to go for that, especially with the Cassiopeia. You get her with the blue buff, can chomp down on those dragons, those objectives quite fast.
She's also great for Baron with Cog.
Yeah, it's a very scary composition to deal with for Jinair. They're going to have to really think about that one. Not a big fan of the skin, though, that Ian did choose.
You don't like his skin?
Yeah, not really. I forget which one.
That's Jade Fang. I think that's Jade Fang.
Jade Fang?
Don't tell me you like the desert one.
No, the desert one, definitely not a big fan of that one.
What's wrong with Jade Fang? It looks almost like it came out of Greek mythology.
It kind of looks like the colors are too, like, matte for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, M-A-T-T-E.
Yeah, you're a shiny guy.
Yeah. I like my shiny Pokemon, my shiny skins.
So if you were
and my Pugmaw.
If you were a moth, you would be the first one at the light. Because you like shiny.
Yeah, I suppose so. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, we got a trade here. He's trying to hop onto Skarl. He can't quite do it. The flash coming in, though, and he does get it. And that means that Sohan will also follow suit with his own flash. A trade on a knife's edge, but neither player is going to get out ahead.
Yeah, but now that ADD doesn't have flash, it means that Sohan gets to transform and get control back in the lane. He gets to go down for some honey fruit, though. Make sure that he's back of HP. What is he going for? Yeah, he gets a ward as well, so he'll be fine in the laning phase, and Beyond gets to steal the red buff, which is the power of Gragas. Sejuani is not that powerful in the skirmishes by herself. She really wants a team fight. 2v2s are great for her, since you can always just pop one person with the help of your side laners, or just all your laners, as long as they pack damage. But on a one-on-one, she's just not enough.
We might see our first big bottom lane dive of the night. Looking to set this one up. They're pushing the wave, poking down Teddy just a little bit. Beyond waiting in the corridor. Here we go. Looking for that flash engage onto Teddy. There's the cast, but no follow-up. No death sentence. The Lantern coming in. Teddy getting extremely low. Is going to be chunked down. One more will do it in first blood. does go over to Maha. Nice death sentence follow-up to in a ton of trouble here. They're going to give that kill over to Ian, and a fantastic start for MVP.
That was great for MVP, but I have to question Jin Air's decision on their summoner spells. Beyond actually botched that gank because he goes for the flash. Great. You know that you need to use your cast immediately when you hit the body slam without going for the auto attack, but he went for the auto attack first, so Teddy had an opportunity to flash in the direction that Cask would have pushed him to safety. Instead, he doesn't go for it and ends up dying. And first brick, and first blood.
And they give all that first break gold over to Maha. So this Kog'Maw that is 1-0-1 also picks up that extra gold in the bottom lane.
So here we go. It's a great timing because Kalista or Braum aren't level 6, but he goes for it, but gets the auto attack. You can flash that. Look at the CC bar on top of him. He had plenty of time to flash out of that. We've seen it players do this all the time, but Teddy just did not do it here. And Snowflower did have his flash here, but that's not worth it. He was just going to get doped anyways. Gresh could have doped him, so it's wise of him to save the flash, but I think Teddy could have most certainly lived.
Would have to agree. He flashed that right away. Perhaps he wasn't expecting that mistake to come out from beyond. And either way, not going to be a good situation for them, as now you're way behind the Kog'Maw. You're just struggling to catch up at this point. The Cassiopeia also picked up a kill. These two late game carries already in a fantastic spot.
Yeah. And, you know, I wouldn't be so critical of these micro plays out of players, but these two teams have made pretty bold statements about what their plans are. Making playoffs, making worlds. If you make those statements, you better be able to back it up with both macro and micro play. And so if they're not living up to what they're saying they expect out of themselves, then we've got no choice but to offer criticism as to why it's not happening.
Yeah, so they're going to have to set their heads straight, as Jin Air definitely very far behind in the early game. That coveted Mountain Drake you were talking about goes over to MVP as well. They're going to be chunking down objectives. Baron will soon be a thing of the past when we eventually get to that stage of the game. And you can see Jin Air, they were trying to fight back. They wanted to go for the Rift Herald, but no can do. And as they essentially just give it up, MVP now thinking about it.
They had a deja vu moment as to what happened game 2, where MVP was in the same position, starting it with people collapsing around them, especially after a swap. So now that the turret swap has happened, I think we can expect MVP to once again look to Maha's lane, get the Kog'Maw ahead. He's already in a fantastic position, and if they build up the wave well, they slowly build it up, gradually bring the jungler in, and then you can crash that wave with a really fat amount of creeps. You can deny so much out of Kalista to shut Teddy down and put him even further behind in the dumpster. And you know, Kalista has the highest win rate of AD carries. She's at 60%. That's pretty high compared to many of the other ones that have such a high amount of games played. And this could be the one that might be putting a dent in that win rate.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, I mean, the dive was perfect because there was no Fate's Call, there was no Glacial Fissure. Had those abilities been up, definitely would have gone a little bit worse for MVP, to say the least. So, fantastic timing. And they get that very well-deserved lead. So they have swapped it here. They've thrown Maha and Max up into the top lane against Teddy and Snowflower. And we have a little 2v2. Bit of a skirmish going on towards the mid side. The junglers poking at each other and the mid laners doing likewise.
The junglers are just poking at each other because of the access to the top lane. Nobody wants to let each other get in. Beyond's trying to make his way. He's a higher level. He's got Cassiopeia to help him out, but Umti just has to respect it and has to be in a position to defend against a dive. So you got to fight for the river. If you give it up, this happens.
Okay, Max getting caught out here. Tons of CC on top of him. Does have that box, though. Can we have a follow-up? Here's Beyond. No more cast, though. In comes Umti, and that will be a dead Max. So support player goes down. Will they try for a Rift Herald? Looks like they will.
Fled is on the way. I really want to see that replay as to how it started. I have to imagine that the fight came about some control on the wave, that they just wanted to fight for the wave a little bit too hard, and then Braum and Kalista get the jump onto them. Here comes a fight for Herald, though. Cog's not here.
Kaga's not here. ADD, he's making his way in. They're pinging Kuzan, actually. The ultimate comes in. There's the charge onto Kuzan, but he flashed Valkyries. The bear trap on a rope does pull him on in, and he's slowed for almost forever. Gilded a follow-up there. They're going so deep for this one. They need to kill him. Finally, they get him. It looks like the body slam flash should get beyond out of trouble's way, but here comes So-Won. Nice little Cassiopeia ultimate, but Teddy on the chase. That's going to be one kill. Can they get more? In comes Max. It looks like that's going to be it for the kills.
A kill in the top lane ends up turning into a bunch of summoners for MVP, trying to kill Kuzan. The Herald going to Janair, kills, and what should have been just one kill, one misplay from Janair, now from MVP, now turns into a mid lane tower and even more. Holy, that's making a mistake and making it even worse.
Yeah, really nice turnaround for Janair to get on top of that, to essentially stop MVP in their tracks. And this game is very even at this point in time as the mid lane turn has gone down. So
just the attempt at trying to stop this was so weird. Kog'Maw is not there. He's at Raptor camp right now. And then they commit to going on to Kuzan, but they forget that the rest of Janair is actually waiting to collapse onto them. So it's a cool use of summoners from Beyond to get out of that. And then you even see the Petrifying Gaze to stop the Braum, although So-Won does sidestep it well, but it's already just too late. The damage has been done. They're not defending mid lane. The opportunity for using Herald is right there, and so they lose tier 1 right away, and we're back to basically even.
There we are. Janair, they are a turret ahead, even though they did sustain some losses, giving up the first blood early on in the game. Still very scary is the Cassiopeia and the Kog that are ahead of their opponents by about 10 CS, plus more as Maha picks this up. So definitely still scary towards the late game, but they're giving Janair a chance. They definitely are. And we'll see what they can do with this. They still have that Wombo kind of potential in their team composition.
It's important that the tanks understand that they are not damage dealers. That their job is to peel, to offer CC, and to stay with Ian and Maha. If Ian and Maha aren't hitting anybody, they need to back off. That's basically how it works, and it's difficult because when you're used to playing so many other champions, and honestly, it's one of the tougher things about playing a tank, remembering to always be in a position where you're both peeling and offering the tools that your champion brings to the table, and you get carried away. Especially if you're Gragas or Kled that don't really have a back button after you go in. You have a pretty big cooldown to escape that you just go in all the way, and turns out you leave your carries behind, and you're wondering why there was no follow-up, and you're like, oh, wait, Kog and Cassiopeia are like the slowest mid and AD carry right now?
Yeah, they're going to have to take their fights very carefully, whereas definitely a bit more peel on the side of Janair, and they have these very hard-to-catch AD carries at the same time. Kog'Maw essentially just going to have to rely on his flash and the help of the Lantern, no doubt, from Max. And we have this Infernal Drake coming up, so Janair looks like they have control of the pit right now, and especially with that package coming down, you can see that MVP, they're thinking about the engage. There it is, but the cask is not going to do all that much. And the follow-up here, they are going to catch Beyond, and uh-oh, this one is going to turn around. Ian totally caught out. They got 2 kills. They're looking for one more. Off of Skarl goes ADD. In comes Umti with that flash, looking for the stun, is going to land it, and that should be 3 kills. They get the Infernal, and 3 kills on the side of Janair.
And MVP just doesn't know what is being thrown at them. Janair start the dragon. They're like, should we go in? Do we not go in? What's going on? How about we try to steal with our only engage and disengage tool, the cask? That was so bizarre. So they immediately get turned on, and Janair walk away victorious. So we're going to look at it again. The package has been laid out. You cannot come in here. Beyond tries to go in, but what? For what purpose? The carries are split up by themselves. Thresh and Kled are not there, so they pull the trigger immediately. And oh, that just was so disjointed.
Janair, they were so happy to receive that on their plate, too. They're like, yeah, okay, come straight on to the package. We have all of these engage tools that if you run straight into us are the easiest things to hit in the world. And they were like, yes, thank you very much. We'll take that Drake and 3 kills.
Like, you just use your best team fighting ability? Oh, okay. Well, we'll win now, thanks.
As simple as that, I suppose. And now it's going to be hard for MVP for sure. They have a Kog'Maw that doesn't have his flash. They have to essentially give map control to Jin Air now, who has an Infernal Drake on them. They just won a big team fight, secured a lot of gold, and went back and bought. So we'll see how this does go down, how they want to approach this. The Baron is coming up in about a minute and a half, and already a bunch of vision is being laid down around the mid side as Jin Air is setting up this play.
Both these teams can rush Baron at minute 20, so the vision beforehand is imperative if they want to be in that position, as well as the lane control. Whatever Sohwan is doing in the lane right now will matter if this team wants to go for an early Baron. So a slow push, a fast push into a crash, whatever they decide to, it all has to be synergistic with the rest of Jin Air. Right now, doesn't look like they're going for a whole lot because they don't have complete vision of the red side jungle, and Kalista's just roaming to the bottom side. So it looks like instead a rotation to the tier 2. And MVP, how are they going to respond? Will they acknowledge this? I think they have to.
Yeah, they're coming over themselves. They're going to turn this into a 4v4 for now, it looks like. But Guzan is coming over, as I do say that, so they will try to defend this. They're just trying to clear that wave out as much as possible. Beyond coming from the left side. Really nice cast. They get Teddy, but an immediate flash. Oh, and there's the Gnar ultimate. Gonna knock in everyone. What an engage from Sohwan. That is gonna open up those kills, but Teddy going a little bit too far, and Ian, he's still okay. Not able to go in alone, though. Looking for some more follow-up damage. Does have Max and Beyond for some good engage, but definitely a very scary fight to take after that.
Oh, MVP got lucky there in that one. Maha went down so quickly, and the cast from Beyond just shows how important this ability was and why it was so bad for it to have been used to go for a steal. So it knocks Kalista and almost knocked Guzan into this as well. So Kalista just now is barely starting to get some DPS into the fight, but I want to see how she's getting turret aggro in here. Yeah, she's the last one out, so the slow in the end does get her knocked out. But I want to criticize Ian there, going back into the bottom side to try to go for a pick. You're Cassiopeia, you're really not going to be able to chase any of these members out. Had he stayed mid lane, get himself ahead, might have been able to put some pressure into the mid, deny some minions there, get himself some nice farm, as opposed to helping out the team as to a fight that was already over.
Yeah, it's like one of those things in solo queue where it's like, oh no, if I don't rotate now, my team is going to be mad at me and say a bunch of bad things, so I guess I'll just rotate late and be useless.
Let me tell you, I almost never rotate for my team.
You're one of those guys then, huh?
Well, I don't play Yasuo or Riven. I actually get objectives. They're like, oh, you guys are fighting here? I'll get a turret.
Yeah.
I pretty much
works out most of the time, especially at the higher levels, for sure, where they know how to disengage and all that good stuff. But
you're giving me too much credit. Higher levels.
You were kind of higher level when you were playing a lot.
No, I mean now, like today.
Yeah.
Today, in normals, I don't rotate.
So be it. But yeah, do agree. Ian kind of coming in awkwardly there. Either way, they're going for 5 in the mid lane, trying to go for a little bit of a push. But they do have to be careful. Maha just about ready to get his flash available once again. But it's a pressure move. They have vision around the Baron right now, and they're looking for picks.
They're also looking for Chunk. Notice how the Scrying Orb was just used by Kalista onto the Baron because they don't have any vision around there. They are just under pressure from the minion wave. So had MVP been able to get some significant chunking there, they might have been able to look for a Baron rush. And MVP has a Mountain Dragon that does threaten that Baron a lot. So they are going to stay in that side of the map. They are going to control mid and top to the best of their ability, and whichever team wins the next fight with a significant advantage will be looking to open up that Baron and open up the game.
All of the focus up towards here. We got a good look in the bottom lane with these two top laners fighting, going head-to-head, about exactly how that fight goes down. ADD, especially 2 levels down, was having trouble trading with Sohwan. He has to either go all in or not at all, because you're going to be kited for days with that Frozen Mallet, with that Black Cleaver. He's got to know he's behind and has to be very selective with his trades against Sohwan, especially with both of these TPs up. So it'll be interesting to have that in the back of our minds with both of those top laners. As for now, it's just a 4v4 in the mid lane as they trade back and forth with some poke.
This Baron, this Dragon should be Jin Air's. Sohwan was starting it by himself, and MVP is not in a great position. Kuzan has package. It's a great timing again, just utilizing that package when the dragon is up, laying down the line. Do you want to come this way? But MVP is just late. They're playing so reactively. They're relying on their late game scaling. They're going to have to rely on their 5v5, and this is going to be the first time we see it.
Miasma laid down perfectly. It's so hard for Jinner to cross over that. They're going to wait for that. And MVP not even able to get this tier 1. And a perfect engage from Umti. ADD forced to flash that one away. Nice petrifying gaze is going to burst Sowan down here, which is very nice. Now they're on the chase. So they do get one pick on the back foot there. But still, at the end of the day, Jinner, they pick up another Infernal Drake. We'll see if they try to go for Baron here now, though. As Sowan is no longer available. It is going to be 5v4. They're just trying to bait it.
Charges up.
Here we go. Who will they hook? No one, actually. The charge is going to get onto Teddy, but he's all alone. The Miasma not able to miss. He dodges away. They do get Snowflower, though, as the trade. So now it's 5v3. And maybe now they'll be confident to go for this Baron.
But Sowan will have teleport. He's got 10 seconds till he's alive. They need to go in and stall.
They're trying to stall here, trying to poke it down. They have the composition to do so. Nice cast to buy them time, but very low members on the side of MVP. That Baron is getting very low. Max is going to trade his life to the Callista. They're going to try to get Umti here and back away. As I say back away, no, they're going in. Kuzan perhaps getting a little bit too far forward. Teddy a little bit too far forward, but here's the chase. Snowon, he gets one. But the rest of them should get away on very, very low health. A very razor-thin Baron take there for MVP.
Great call from them to bait it multiple times to make sure that they understood what the plan was going for. They committed, and it's around Baron where they have been decisive all year long. The decisiveness around Baron has resulted in Baron steals, just disjointed ideas. They even said that they don't even care. They want to go for 50-50s. Umti flashed in to try to get a Baron steal in there. We're going to look at it again. When they commit to the back of the pit, you know they're going all the way for the Baron. The cast gets thrown out, but then Miasma prevents Kuzan from fully committing in here. He doesn't want to be stepping in on that if he wants to go inside of this fight. So they go in a little bit late. Instead, they are only able to take that one member, and ADD walks away with his life part. They take out, or at least they take out Ian.
Yeah, on the back foot. That's that TP coming in, as you were saying. So on trying to make the best of a bad situation. This game is extremely close. A huge Baron for MVP and a very fed Kog'Maw, but again, things can definitely go wrong with the engage that Jinner has.
But Jinner, when they tried that engage, that Glacial Fissure only hit ADD, and Sohan ended up getting caught with his pants out, almost like turning back to Mini Hulk at the wrong moment because he gnarred out and then it exhausted as soon as he got stunned by Cassiopeia, and he just got melted. But we're at a stage in the game where there are no tanks. You don't have anybody to survive Cassiopeia Kog'Maw. That single target DPS, a Gargoyle Stoneplate does not keep you alive for that for very long.
Adds maybe 2-3 seconds in the survivability portion, but that's about it. And MVP, they were thinking about going for this top turret, but there was a nice setup by Jinner. They were even protecting their flanks, not allowing Beyond to get any kind of flash engage into Cask or anything like that. So MVP, they will not go for this top turret, in fact. And the time on this Baron, they're still looking for more objectives. Looks like they're going to make a play here towards mid lane.
And going with a 1-3-1 with Cassiopeia joining on the side, so she's going to be a little bit late, but that doesn't matter too much. She's great for peel. You know that Jinner will be trying to dive. And nothing happens.
Yeah, not going to commit to it here. Maha's got to be extremely careful about his positioning too, especially against a Corki in general. Like, everybody knows the burst potential of this Corki. We do have the QSS for Maha, and he does have lifesteal, but he has to be careful about where he is, as you know, you don't want to take all that damage and then a fight being started. You want to start it at full health with the protection of your teammates.
The thing is, he can start from so far away. His range is crazy. He can always assist with ultimates and spells, whereas Teddy and Kuzan, most of their damage will be coming out from their auto attacks at this stage in the game. So Kog'Maw can be quite safe. He only has to worry about the knockup from Callista, and he's not going to get hit by that.
Yeah, that was a very interesting Fade's call. I mean, pretty much max range hook that missed from Max, and then they couldn't really follow up as an immediate disengage from MVP. So able to get that Kalista ultimate, the Fate's Call away.
And that's all they need, because Glacial Fissure is not a problem for Maha. He's got QSS. Gnar, same thing. QSS can get him out of that in his flash. Sure, it's not up right now, so he plays a little far back, but it's the knockup from Teddy that will matter. If Snowflower gets to go on him and knock him up, that will be a more impactful spell than just getting CC'd with somebody in front of you, because you can combo with the passive on Braum. People can flash onto you and stun you after that. People can just position a little bit better while you're in the air if the QSS doesn't come out right away. So the knockup is the spell to watch out for Jin, and unfortunately it means that Teddy has to put himself in a more dangerous situation if he wants to get in range and allow Snowflower to catch up to Maha.
Well, this won't be the first time they've tried to rely on Teddy for his mechanics. He always looked good, even in Spring Split, where his team kind of just fell apart behind him as he was trying to mechanically win on the AD carry role. Now he definitely has a much stronger team. Same guys, but they all have improved across the board. And we were talking about a lot relying on Teddy. I think they would be happy to rely on this guy, as he has been quite solid so far. His game 2 was a little bit iffy at times, but can't be perfect.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're going to have to wait and see if he can get some nice knockups. What were you going to say, Crumbs?
That in this meta, I don't think it's wise to rely on one guy. I think that the way that the way that the game has been played, you need more members than just one guy to be able to engage. This is not going to amount to much, I don't think.
They're going to get onto Umti, and they do force the flash away. And now we're in a bit of an awkward spot. As Jin, they're pushed towards the top lane, and immediately they're like, okay, I guess we'll just turn onto this turret. And now it's MVP that are stuck in here with Jin as they push them away. They get a turret. We'll see if they can engage now. But MT's going to be looking to go forward from this time. Not really going to look to flash away. Nice zoning so far. Trying to keep Beyond away. They know the engage potential. Okay, there's the Fate's Call. Is going to get on top of Beyond with the Glacial Fissure, but Maha still protected with that exhaust. ADD getting extremely low. Can they burst him down? It doesn't really look like it. Glacial Fissure coming in. Beyond taking a lot of damage, but they are able to disengage here. And nobody will meet their debts, as lots of summoners are used, and Jin gets out alive.
No carries were actually dealing damage. That's what happens. You get all tanks, no damage, because they're also afraid of each other's CC. So understandably, nothing goes down, but it all started with MVP being a real coach there, telling Jin, hey, Jin, you need to be rotating top lane. You got to wave, man. Like, this is how you do macro. Oh, thanks for the macro reminder, guys. Thanks for the tower. So they walk away, being escorted to the top side of the map. And now 20 seconds. What are these teams going to do with these recalls? Because Jin is back on the map before MVP. They will have emphasis. No, don't go. Oh, come on, Teddy. Where are you going for Raptors right now? They could be pressuring Baron. So we're going to look at the fight again. The Fate's Call not in range of Maha. And Teddy actually flashes as soon as the flash petrifying gaze from Cassiopeia is sent out, as well as the hook. So great read by him. But as soon as those spells get used, there's just no more damage to be had.
So here we go. We got this Baron coming up. We got double flash on the side of the bottom lane for MVP, whereas no double flash for Teddy and Snowflower. Going to be really lacking in engage, but at least they do get the Scuttle Crab. So we'll have vision on the Baron for now. Definitely very scary going against MVP's composition with the Mountain Drake. Have to be so aware of their potential to go for that Baron.
Well, Maha still has his, and now he's got the Scimitar, which will make him a little bit more slippery in escaping out of these sticky situations.
Beyond looking for an engage. Oh, he gets Teddy. He's going to be engaged here, but no follow-up. He's getting extremely low, but it's only ADD. They're going for Umti in the backside, as it looks like tank for tank. Umti is the only one that goes down, and ADD gets out alive. So 5v4 in favor of MVP now. But Kuzan trying to come in here, looking to be the hero, wants to get onto ADD, and he gets it. Going to even up the score, 4 against 4. But here we go, the rush onto the Baron. Can they take it down in time? That engage here from Jin is going to be quite scary. They have the Glacial Fissure available, but it looks like they can't do it as Kuzan is not close enough. We'll have to cede that Baron to MVP.
And I think that the tank meta might have been the worst thing to have happened, because none of these teams seem to be capable of playing these tanks effectively. They're all getting soloed out by themselves, just being individual. Instead of retreating with the team, let's see where goes in. So he actually Arctic assaults into the Cassiopeia as opposed to backwards with the rest of the lineup, and just tanks need to remain with the carries. You say it before, you say it again, and Kuzan sees the opportunity. Love how he started with the rocket before Valkyrie in. You're like, huh, what's going on? There's a rocket stopping my base? No, he's stopping my life.
Boom, aha. Gotta be careful. Stay behind your big guys.
It's the big guys that gotta stay in front of the small guys.
It's true, but Maha was approaching that turret. He's like, hey man, come at me. I got some good friends back at home. They'll help me out. Maha looking for some lifesteal. They're going to give him the mid lane. Should be fine. And now he's at full health. Funny how that happened. Looking to do some poking now. The Tristana / Kog'Maw kind of thing. As well as Caitlyn, but we never see her anymore.
I actually didn't even get to notice because the screen disparity, but Maha's running Storm Raider Surge on the Kog'Maw.
It's pretty good for the speed boost.
No laning there, no lifesteal with the Warlords or the Fervor, just going with the speed.
Okay, Fate's Call has to be used. Even the Glacial Prison comes out too, and they're even going to try to engage. Nice Glacial Prison here, but where is the follow-up? We're going to see Max go down, but lots of low members on the side of Jin Air. Looks like Beyond, though, will eat it too, and now the rest of MVP is going to be on the run. Gnar coming in, but Maha, he's totally protected. He's going to chunk down one. There's the second. The two carries for MVP remain alive, and Jin Air cannot go further. Okay, never mind. They are going to go further. The poke coming out, and he flashes that over the Miasma, makes it on top of Ian, and they do take out one of those carries.
And what can Kog'Maw do by himself now? Surely he can't defend this turret, but can he defend the base turret? I think he can. Max is up in 18 seconds. Umti does have his flash as well as the Arctic Assault. And if maybe they want to kill Maha, but there is no wave, I think they're probably better suited to just go for Dragon. Yeah, just go for Dragon, Jin Air.
Thinking about taking out that turret, but deciding to go for this Elder. Or actually, we have triple recall. Okay, just going to wait until their entire team is available.
So watch Maha in this fight. He gets hit with the Glacial Prison from the start, and it's looking good for Jin Air because they're chunking out, or for MVP, they're chunking out, but he walks back into the turret to finish it off. He gets hit by the residual effect of the Sejuani ultimate, forced to QSS, and puts himself in a position where he can no longer deal damage. Only now, where it's 5-on-3, can you tell just how much damage Maha can do. Had he not been in that position, I think this fight would have gone the way of MVP. They have Baron, they've got carries that can deal so much damage, but if they're not dealing damage, then it doesn't matter if you have the greatest champions in the world, you're not winning a fight.
Well, here we go. We got this Elder Drake available at the ready. And Jin Air kind of splitting up weirdly. We got Corki and Sejuani down here, so the charge is going to come in. It runs into Soan in the mid lane, so no charge engage onto the back line of Jin Air.
Nair splits. Sejuani's on the backside. They have to address this minion wave, though. It's probably not strong enough to take down the turret, but they will be addressing it, and Sohan has no ward to teleport to for a flank.
So MVP, they see him go for the creep wave, and immediately they started. They got this Cassiopeia, they have Kog'Maw, they get the hook onto Snowflower, and they're going to try to turn, but Snowflower, incredibly tanky. Maha, there's that burst damage I was talking about. They cannot just walk up to Kuzan at this moment in time. He does extreme burst damage, and that's what he can do to a Kog'Maw. Immediate. You know, you were saying it before, chunk equals almost to death, and that means the Elder Drake is going to go over to Jin Air.
Maha is getting so cocky there, getting in the range of Kuzan, not thinking, oh, he surely won't do that damage. And in fact, he actually doesn't. But when he hits you with a crit, that's when you feel it. He's got, I think he's got a hell of a lot of crit there, i.e. Static Shiv and Rapid Fire. Typically, we don't see this build from the Corki. We would see like the Void Staffs coming out or the QSSs. No, he's going all out for damage, and Maha felt it. I love this adaptation from Kuzan, going with as much damage as possible in this stage in the game, and his auto attacks just earned them an Elder.
It's so cool in conjunction with the Callista, too, is just insane sustained damage and is also very slippery. If you have Kuzan in the front to do that immediate burst and have the follow-up with the engage of your engaged champions, and then Teddy is totally protected, that's like the dream fight for Jin Air, and so far MVP has been playing into their hands multiple times where they just walk straight at them and say, hey, come and CC me, bro. Or, you know, hey, come and burst me down. Just get me out of the fight. Here you go.
Now that burst is even higher. That's a double Infernal Elder Dragon. That's 4 stacks of an Infernal with a Corki and a Kalista. Just tons of deeps here. It's unfortunately not going to last for the Baron fight for Jin Air, but this fight is going to be the decider. We're already at a point where Kog'Maw is at 6 items. That's an Infinity Edge on Kog'Maw. He's going to be able to melt down anybody. There is no armor on Kalista or Corki. She gets to hit these targets, they die in 3 autos.
Question is, can Maha get in range? Can he make it happen? And hopefully not eat missiles to the face this time around. The first step, as always, is going to be that vision. And so far, MVP only has 1 ward in this brush up there, that Scrying ward. So they need to get in position to push that down. They have the bottom wave pushing at a really nice timing. It's going to force Sohan down there, but of course both of these top laners will have teleport by the time any fights happen at the Baron.
And we're nearing the Baron time. Maha can hit those carries, but his damage is also impactful on the tanks. It's all about leaving Maha to auto attack. As long as he's permanently auto attack in conjunction with Ian, you'll most likely see MVP win. Just keep your eyes out on Maha and Ian. If they're out of the fight, not dealing DPS, it's almost certainly Jin Air that can melt down through the tanks and the front line of MVP and then win the fight because they have lifesteal. They can turn into a Baron easily, just like MVP. And now that the death timers are long and there are no more turrets in the way of the base, you can expect some teams to make pushes for wins.
MVP, they're desperately looking for a pick here. It's not going to work out, and that means that ADD has to go back home and deal with Sohan right now. Kuzan, he delays that back. That is so good. That's going to buy so much time for Sohan here. ADD going to start going back once again, but the static shiv delays it again. And look at this turret, it's going down. We're at about half health here. Now Maha's taking burst damage. The package is laid down. MVP in a really dire spot here. Eventually, ADD does get down into the bot side, but that turret is going to go down, and now we have the Baron starting too, which means that Sohan can TP in. Looks like Jin Air, though, they're not going to take that risk. They still got Sohan pushing onto this inhibitor. They want to put so much pressure down there, and MVP, they're looking for an engage, but Jin Air's not giving it to them.
They don't have Mega Nard. He just Nard out. He's mini already. They need to wait it out. They need him to be back online. And the fight in the 1v1 bottom lane is really what's deciding the action in the main screen.
I love this picture-in-picture, the multi-view, if you will. And now it's MVP that's starting this Baron. Not sure about this. I mean, they can chunk it down extremely fast, but they have to turn. The hook is not going to land. And there's that Glacial Prison, the knock-up onto 2 members, and now MVP's on the run. And take a look at the multi-view. That inhibitor getting so low. Sohan putting on the pressure. He's not going to stick around, though, for now. He's waiting for that mini-Gnar so that he can poke onto ADD. And Jin Air's doing such a good job delaying this forever in this fight.
It's a big victory for Jin Air. They got the flash and QSS out of Maha and inhibitor now. They don't even need to start this. They can just wait patiently for Gnar to do his thing. As long as MVP doesn't get to start this Baron, they're in a great position because it should have been MVP in position to start this Baron to threaten Jin Air to split push or continue on the fight. Instead, Jin Air gets a jump on it and it's catastrophic.
This game is so tense right now for the last 2 minutes. It's back and forth. They're looking for it. That hook on the Kuzan is nice, but the QSS coming out. Maha, he's getting burst down, the exhaust, but look at how much damage he can do. He's beginning to poke down Teddy, who has to flash away. Kuzan in the back, though, is very well protected. Ian taking a lot of damage, but Maha still protected. Can he do that damage? He needs that W up. He's going to be backing off for now. Here comes the flash forward from Umti. Umti getting chunked down, though, by the Kog'Maw. Almost eats it. There's the hook on the Kuzan. They get the Corki, and that is a huge pick for MVP. The Baron is still available, and those are some long death timers. 56 seconds for Kuzan.
That should be Baron for MVP now. Jin Air just played a little. Oh, he stops the Baron. That's not going to be enough. Not a big deal. It's all about the Baron now. But Jin Air, it was so beautiful at first. Great macro utilizing that split push pressure. But when the fight got started, they got a little too carried away. They did not need to go back in on this. They just had to pull it off. And now MVP gets the Baron. And the initial play that Jin Air had that led that inhibitor no longer matters because Baron can stop that from happening. So them starting the Baron again is the mistake. They did not need to do this. They could just have waited back, and then MVP gets a re-engage. And Maha, look at him. He just melts the tank. There's no W up when he's hitting Braum. He just popped him instantly. And when they overcommit to this, they know that one CC, if there's mana for a slam or a hook, it's going to be the death of somebody. They're reluctant in going in on this. And the second that the hook hits 1, 2, 3, 4, you're out.
The 1, 2, 3 punch.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 punch from the Pugma and the knockout. But really, Max, you know, once again, he loves playing these types of champions. The Rakan, the Blitzcrank, the Thresh. And you can tell he knows where those hooks are going. I think that was 2 or 3 in a row off to Kuzan. It's really key. They get those big carries out of the fight and they keep their Kog'Maw alive. Look at that burst damage. 1 auto for Maha right now is enough to push everybody back. The TP coming in too, and MVP, they're looking to fight back. They want to take an inhibitor themselves.
Jin can't defend this, and they're going to be... Whoa, they're going for more. They're going for the game.
I think they can do it at this point as long as Maha stays safe. Doesn't have his flash, but he's still safe for now. Kuzan gets hooked again, and QSS goes down for him. Now he's in more danger. They're only going to go for 1 turret for now. They're taking it safe.
Oh, no. The reason why this is dangerous is that Maha can't be hitting that turret with his W. Like, he needs to use W to hit the turret instead, rather. So if he doesn't have W up, his team fighting is way weaker. He's not in range to do this. It's all about clearing the minion wave. They're pushing harder.
There's the poke coming out from Maha. He also has red buff. Package is up for Kuzan. He's going to be looking to make a play. Maha taking some burst, but you see that W was used on the turret once again. And I love this patient play from MVP. They're just waiting for wave after wave. They're only focusing on bot. But now with the big wave in bot, or rather in mid, now in a big wave in bottom, looks like this time they will have to back off. They cannot continue their push.
They'll be fine. They've got Baron to get out of here. They've got Lantern. And what looked like a great Jin play, it got too fast for them. You know, they remind me of one of those racing movies or like an athletic movie where you've got the young star that just got onto the team and he's so naturally talented, but he doesn't know his limits. They just don't know their limits, so they always push themselves a little bit too far. They're like, whoa, all the potential, all the power. Like, how are they doing this? And then they always just crash out of control. They have muscle spasms. It fails because they went too hard without enough reservation. And that's what I see in Jin. Like, that was such a great call, but pushed it a little too much.
A lot of these members are extremely young. You know, they still have to get more experience under their belts, namely Humti, obviously, the rookie coming in spring, and Kuzan himself, also pretty young. The whole lineup filled with very young players and trying to make it work. They're trying to make a playoff run after a pretty abysmal run in the spring split. You know, this is a totally new Jin that we're looking at. And as I said before, they need to win this series against MVP. And this is about as close as it gets. It's down to the wire for these guys. This is definitely going to be a learning experience, if anything, for Jin. But more than that, they don't really care about that. They want the win.
The MVP doesn't have Baron anymore now, so it's going to be a lot harder for them to push this. A team fight win here will be the game for either of these teams if they can wipe out multiple members. Gnar is pushing topside. This should be MVP feeling safe to do this, but the threat of the Gnar pushing seems to be too much for them. They're going for game.
Okay, they're going to go 5 down mid. This is their response. They say, hey, you can take my inhibitor. I don't care. And Bear Trap on a rope is going to miss. Can they get a CC onto any of these members? They need it. The TP coming in, though, from Sowan. Not going to go for the inhibitor. Maha is going to try to burst down that turret. Not going to be able to do it. And now here's the back off. The QSS used by Maha. He's still alive. Taking it very slow. The death sentence is going to miss. Bear Trap on a rope is going to extend out of control. Fate's Call also going to miss. In comes ADD looking to shut down M2. Pops his Gargoyle. Stone Plate. Snowflower getting low. He's the first one in the death sentence. They get out to Sowan. That's 2 kills. Beyond in a bit of trouble, but Ian also carry alongside Maha. They're able to pick off 2 of these members, and now it's 5v3.
That should be it. The Kog'Maw show is here.
Oh, he does it. He stays alive, and they are able to take it. An MVP. They're looking to crush Jin Air's hopes of playoffs with this win. They will take it out. The GA will pop, and Game 3 goes over to MVP.
Curses are not so easily broken, Jin Air. 2 years in a row in the entire regular season, fails to defeat MVP once again. Now the record is 6 wins for MVP, 0 for Janair, and a sigh of relief goes over them for a game, a series that was way tougher than anybody had anticipated. And in the end, Maha's Kog'Maw proved to be way too much for them to handle. Janair deviated from their path of skirmish and full-on macro-oriented, went with more team fighting, and it just did not work. Overall, MVP triumph. The Kog'Maw and Cassiopeia really worked off, and it all started from that gank from beyond to the bottom side. That gank that got Kog'Maw ahead, put them in a great position to get to this position. 50 minutes in, Kog'Maw show.
This leaves Jin Air in a really dire position. They were sitting at 7 and 8. Now they're 7 and 9. I think even at this point, the only way they make it into playoffs is if Afrika lose their next 2 games and they win their next one. And that's going to be a hard task as they are going up against Afrika.
Yeah. It's also a sigh of relief for Afrika, which play later tonight, as no longer do they have anybody breathing down their necks for that playoff spot. They've got a 2-game separation between them and the Jin Air Greenwings, so they're going to be A-OK now on their next match. So a bit of disappointment for Jin Air. In fact, quite a lot. And it's unfortunate, but as you were saying, it is a big, big learning experience.
Definitely is, and multiple spots in this game. It was looking good for Jin Air. Lots of mistakes made by MVP early and mid-game, and they capitalized hard.
That was a gargantuous mistake to use the cask and look for that fight. And yeah, Jin Air were not hesitant in going for this. Like, they had plenty of opportunities in this game for them to come back, and this one was one that looked great for them, right? They get the kill onto the Kog'Maw, but I want to see, how does Teddy... Oh. Teddy goes a little bit too far and ends up giving his life, and that could have been the difference for a turret for this team, for Cassiopeia to not be able to walk away. And here they go once again, and watch Nard. He minis out on the hook. Dr. Jekyll appears out of nowhere. Oh, where was I?
What happened?
But this was the biggest one, really. Actually, no, this is not the biggest one. The biggest one was around Baron, where a genius macro move from Jin Air. They're pushing down the inhibitor with a split pusher, and they turn back onto the Baron when the inhibitor had already been taken down. Such a heartbreaker.
There were so many close engages in this game where it looked like it was going one way and then someone else got caught, and sometimes where these junglers had really fantastic opportunities to make a gigantic play, and it just didn't pan out for them. You know, even in this fight, Maha, you get CC'd for days, but still MVP, they try to make the best of it. In the end, it was only Maha that stayed alive, but enough damage was taken by Jin Air that they couldn't really get any big objectives. They couldn't get the mid inhibitor, they couldn't push it far enough, and because they couldn't push it far enough, the game went on long enough for this Kog'Maw to get out of control.
And I think, yeah, this is the one where they started the Baron after they got the inhibitor, and MVP felt safe to be able to retaliate, re-engage onto this, and the hook from Max ends up being a death sentence for Snowflower. We saw in KT's game, they don't care about Braum. If you've got the damage, you chunk out Braum. That's a very important piece of a team fighting composition. And when Umti flashes in here to try to kill the Gragas, they forget just that Kog'Maw is 6 items. He's so fat, he'll kill anybody.
In the last fight here, you were talking about chunking down tanks. Snowflower just a little bit too far ahead. MT got chunked, and then ADD got hooked, and or not ADD, but Sohan on the Gnar. So after that, I mean, 5v3, there's not enough DPS to get into the back line on the 6-item Kog'Maw, and it was basically over. Maha almost gives it over to them, getting caught in the CC, but it almost looked like a bait in the end because
that was the flash hook from Max, but what I really liked about that end play was the decision from MVP to go for the end. They do not want to respond to the inhibitor push. They don't care. They say, oh, you're giving us a slap on the face, we're going to give you a punch in the ribs. What are you going to do about that? Are you going to respond to it? And so it forces Nara to come back, and you get the fight that you want, and that is some nice League of Legends.
Yeah, not responding to your opponent, but playing your own game in the end of the day was what won it for MVP. Some pretty ridiculous damage charts as Corki and Kog'Maw are way ahead of everybody else. You can see some low-key damage from the side of Kalista and the Cassiopeia. But either way, guys, we're going to hop over to the interview. I'll hand you over to Ji-Sun.
Hi, this is Ji-Sun, and here we have Max for the interview. Today was really an important match. How do you feel? We really tried hard to not to go under, so we prepared for today's match a lot. So how was today's match? Well, even in the start of the first set, I played Rakan. I thought we couldn't win the game, but it wasn't easy. So, well, it's kind of not satisfying, but we're happy that we won it 2-1. Then tell me about the Baron team fight. So we were trying to wait for the team fight, but my health was really low, but we trying to group up and protect ourselves from dying. There was a lot of Baron team fight. How was it? Well, we really prefer to open team fight at the Baron, so. And our skill set was really good for the Baron fight, so we tried to open fight at the Baron nest. Then in what kind of situation do you open team fights? I try to check the enemy dealers where they're looking at, so if they're really weak or they're really open, I try to jump into them. Then how is Morgana as a Rakan's counter? So I think it works for working and preparing for the Rakan's counter because the shield is really powerful. Then let's check out the MVP.
Taking a look at game number 3 MVP for MVP. It is Maha on the Kog'Maw, 9-1-10, 95% kill contribution. Not too many mistakes by this guy.
No surprises. Played a little over-aggressive at times, but for the most part understood his role in the team. Trying to deal as much damage as possible and made some missteps, but just the amount of DPS that he was able to dish out in some of these fights was astronomical.
So we're back with Maha. So how do you feel? My first MVP interview was at here, next in Arena, and I'm really happy to have an interview again in this stadium. As Max said, he told that you said you trust on your Kog'Maw. Were you prepared a lot? Well, yeah, I tried to use different mastery for team fights, so I think it worked out really well. So I tried to focus on dodging their skills and trying to dealing as much as possible. Then how did you protect Kog'Maw? I tried to build up Mikhail as fast as possible and other shielding items for Kog'Maw. There were a lot of team fights. But before the last Baron fight, there was 1v1 with the top laners, the bottom lane. How was the situation? Well, the situation wasn't really in favor for us, so we tried to open team fights. So I hooked the enemy and they used up their ult, so we tried to reopen the fight. But it was really close, but we were kind of lucky and won the team fight, and there was a turnover for the game. Then why were there so many team fights today? I think Junior and us both have similar team colors. Well, every time we lose a team fight, we try to feedback as soon as possible in the gaming booth. Then was this the concept of team composition for team fights? Yeah, it was composition for team fights. We're trying to focus for the team fights as much as possible. Then last message for your fans. we lost our confidence after losing the first game, but thanks to your support, we could cheer out more. So thank you for all the love and support. Yeah, hearing their cheering and their chanting, I could get more courage. So I really want to thank them, and also looking forward for more support. Thank you. And this was the end of the interview. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ji-sun. They have a lot of fans, guys. I don't know what to say. Everybody coming down to the studio to support MVP today as they won an incredibly close series against Jin Air. Definitely deserving of the cheers. But here we go, the standings, as Jin Air fans not going to be happy with this one.
Yep, the playoff dream for the Jin Air team is over. So now they have to just worry about next year or the upcoming tournaments, because no worlds for them.
I mean, there is a chance.
There is.
There's a chance, but
come on.
In order for that to happen, Afrika basically has to lose to, let me check it out. They need to lose to
Jin Air as well.
To Ever8, and then they need to lose to MVP, and then they need to lose to Jin Air. So that's a lot to ask of a Afrika lineup that's doing quite good nowadays, and I think they basically have secured their spot.
But the happy story for MVP is that now they've tied the Rocks Tigers, which is great for them. Now they're separating themselves from the pack, and while they do have Afrika as their upcoming match, they also have Ever8. And if they can beat Ever8, they can solidify themselves a little bit further up in the standings in the bottom of the table. But hey, they beat Jin Air. This is a team that just took down SKT 2-0, right? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a very close series too. I mean, you got to hand it to Jin Air. They almost won that one. They needed to win that one basically to make it into playoffs, and man, it just wasn't enough. So, guys, we're going to go quick into a long commercial break, about 30 minutes. When we come back, Afrika versus Ever8.